Hello viewers, welcome back to the YouTube channel of Zoological Society of Assam. Today's presentation is animal tissues, specifically connective tissue proper, and it is designed for the benefit of students pursuing their graduation in zoology. At the end of this presentation, the students will be able to know about the definition and composition of connective tissues, the types of connective tissues, the adult connective tissue classification, the different types of connective tissue proper and their composition and function, that is areolar connective tissue, dense connective tissue, loose connective tissue, elastic connective tissue and reticular connective tissue. The students will also know about skeletal and vascular tissues briefly, and lastly, the functions of connective tissues will be discussed. Before we go into the details, let me introduce you to the subject. The term connective tissue was introduced by Johannes Peter Müller in the year 1830, and we define connective tissues as those that connect different tissues and organs of the body and also provide support to various structures of the body. These are the most abundant and widely distributed body tissue, constituting about 30% of the body weight. The origin of connective tissues is from the mesoderm, a germ layer of the embryo, and the mesoderm differentiates into the embryonic mesenchyme, which is a tissue developing particularly from the middle layer of the embryo. In the head region, in addition to mesoderm, the neural crest also contributes to the formation of connective tissues. The neural crest is a transient embryonic structure present in vertebrates that forms the peripheral nervous system along with several non-neural cell types like the connective tissues. Connective tissues are composed of three main components: the extracellular matrix, which is also referred to as the ground substance, cells and fibers. The extracellular matrix of connective tissue is a mixture of carbohydrates and proteins. So within carbohydrates, mainly mucopolysaccharides constitute the extracellular matrix. The cells that make up the connective tissue are of different types like fibroblasts, adipocytes, macrophages, mast cells and leukocytes. The fibers that make up the connective tissue are collagen fibers, which are also called white fibers, elastic fibers, which are yellow fibers, and reticular fibers. Most connective tissues are vascularized with exception of cartilage. That means most connective tissues are, in most connective tissues we see presence of blood vessels except cartilage. So let us see the different types of connective tissues. We can divide connective tissues into two types: the embryonic connective tissue and the adult connective tissue. The embryonic connective tissue is formed during the development of the embryo, and it is mainly of two types: the mesenchyme in the embryo and mucous connective tissue in the umbilical cord. Now let us see what is mesenchyme. So mesenchyme, the term mesenchyme was coined by Hertwig and Hertwig in the year 1882 to mean cells that wander out of germ layers to produce connective tissues and blood. And mesenchyme is undifferentiated and primitive connective tissue which is found in the embryo. The origin of mesenchyme is mesoderm, and it is composed of ground substance, sparse collagen fibers, reticular fibers and mesenchyme cells. The function of the mesenchyme is to proliferate and differentiate into different connective tissue cell types, smooth muscle cells, blood cells, etc. Now let us see the second type of embryonic connective tissue which is present in the umbilical cord, the mucous connective tissue. The mucous connective tissue is a subset of the mesenchyme and it is present in the umbilical cord, and its composition is ground substance which is rich in hyaluronic acid, collagen fibers, fibroblasts and mesenchyme cells. These cells, mesenchyme cells, are loosely distributed in the collagen-rich extracellular matrix which is also called Wharton's jelly. The term Wharton's jelly was first given by Thomas Wharton in 1656. The functions of mucous connective tissue is to secrete the ground substance and fibers. Now let us discuss the adult connective tissue. The cells that make up this adult connective tissue are typically divided into two types: fixed cells or permanent cells and transient cells or wandering cells. Fibroblasts and fat cells, which are called adipocytes, are the fixed cells of the adult connective tissue, while macrophages, monocytes, lymphocytes, plasma cells, eosinophils and mast cells are the transient cells of the adult connective tissue. The fibroblasts are the most common cell type in the connective tissues. We can divide adult connective tissue into connective tissue proper, skeletal tissue and vascular tissue. The connective tissue proper is again divided into areolar tissue, which is also called loose connective tissue, adipose tissue, dense connective tissue, elastic connective tissue and reticular tissue. The skeletal tissue is of two types, cartilage and bone, and vascular tissues are made up of blood and lymph. Let us discuss connective tissue proper in detail. So let us first see the areolar tissue that connects and supports other tissues like under the integument, between muscles, supporting blood vessels and nerves, in the alimentary canal, in the glands supporting secretory cells, and the matrix that is present in the areolar tissue is semi-solid with cells, different types of cells like fibroblasts, macrophages, mast cells, plasma cells and fat cells. So this is a picture of areolar tissue where you can see the different types of cells and fibers present in the tissue. The type of the cells that make up the areolar tissue are fibroblasts. So let us discuss. Fibroblasts are the main resident cells of the connective tissue, and these are large cells which are generally spindle shaped with irregular protoplasmic processes and a prominent nuclei. The function of fibroblasts is to synthesize components of the connective tissue ground substance like hyaluron, which is a polysaccharide derivative, and also the precursor molecules of various types of collagen and elastic fibers. So we summarize the function of fibroblasts as synthesis of collagen, elastic and reticular fibers, and also complex carbohydrates of the ground substance. So this is a picture of the collagen fibers. The fibroblasts are of two types, active fibroblasts and inactive fibroblasts. Fibroblasts and fibrocytes are actually two states of the same cell. That is, fibroblasts are the activated state while fibrocytes are the less activated state, which are mainly concerned with the maintenance of fibroblasts. And the active fibroblasts can be recognized by the presence of abundant rough endoplasmic reticulum, and the fibrocytes, which are the inactive forms of the fibroblasts, they are smaller, spindle shaped and have a much reduced rough endoplasmic reticulum. So here you can see fibroblasts and fibrocytes. So fibroblasts and fibrocytes are two states of the same cell. One is active and the other is inactive. Let us see what are macrophages. So macrophages are large, irregular, amoeboid cells which are derived from monocytes, and monocytes are white blood cells or leukocytes which have non-lobulated nuclei and no granules, so they are agranular. Monocytes are large corpuscles up to 20 micrometer in diameter, and they have eccentrically placed kidney-shaped nuclei. They are highly motile and phagocytic cells, and in the tissue spaces they get transformed to macrophages, which are called histiocytes in reference to the connective tissues. So these are the macrophages in action. The function of macrophages is to perform phagocytosis, that is, engulfing and digesting cells of damaged tissues, microbes, and other foreign bodies. Macrophages are very important for the immune function of the body, and they destroy invaders while also participating in wound healing and repair. The third type of cells which are present in the areolar tissue are mast cells, and mast cells are large, ovoid, mobile connective tissue cells with spherical nucleus, and they originate from the bone marrow from the hematopoietic stem cells. These are very important because they affect or regulate allergic responses, innate and adaptive immunity, autoimmunity, and also inflammation. In addition to areolar tissues, mast cells are also found in skin, gastrointestinal lining, around blood vessels, and under the fibrous capsule of liver and spleen. And the function of mast cells is to secrete granules containing heparin, which is an anticoagulant, serotonin, which is a vasoconstrictor, and histamine, which is a vasodilator. These molecules, histamines, are associated with allergies and also hypersensitivity. The fourth type of cells which are present in areolar connective tissue are plasma cells, and plasma cells are derived from B lymphocytes. So these are amoeboidal cells with round nucleus, and their chromatin material is arranged like spokes in a wheel. They are found in the bone marrow where blood cells are made. The function of these plasma cells is to synthesize and secrete specific antibodies in response to foreign antigens. Plasma cells are also the effector cells, which are meant for the production of high amount of antibodies, and there are memory B cells which maintain the memory, which is also called immunological memory, and are effectors of rapid immunological response upon later exposure to the same antigen. The last type of cells which are present in the areolar connective tissue are fat cells or adipocytes, and these are cells of variable shape and size, and they occur singly or in groups in the areolar tissue, and their function is to accumulate neutral fat. The second type of connective tissue proper is adipose tissue, and adipose tissue is a specialized loose connective tissue in which fibroblasts are modified for fat storage. This tissue is made up of large spherical or oval cells which are also called fat cells or adipocytes that secrete a hormone, that is leptin, which is involved in the regulation of appetite. We find two types of adipose tissue, white adipose tissue and brown adipose tissue. The white adipose tissue constitutes about 20 to 25% of the body weight, and the cells of this tissue have single large fat globule, and it is found supporting the kidneys and eyes. So this is the white adipose tissue comprising of single large fat globules. The brown adipose tissue is found in relatively small quantities, and cells have several small fat globules. They are found in the scapulae and walls of large blood vessels, and they also help in maintaining the body temperature. So these are the small cells, small fat globules which are present in the brown adipose tissue. The location of adipose tissue is beneath the skin, around the kidneys and bone marrow. It is a poor conductor of heat, and so it acts as thermal insulator. Prominent adipose tissue sites are subcutaneous fat, that is hypodermis, blubber of whale and hump of camel. So this is a picture of the blubber of whale. So this is the blubber, epidermis, dermis, and this is the blubber region, and this is the connective tissue layer. The function of adipose tissue is energy and water storage, insulation, cushioning of vital organs, source of heat and lipid, and thermoregulation. Another type of connective tissue proper is dense connective tissue, and dense connective tissue is made of closely packed bundles of collagen fibers with very little extracellular matrix, and there are few fibroblasts which lie in rows between the bundles of fibers. The orientation of these fibers show a regular or irregular pattern. So if the fibers are arranged regularly, then it is a dense regular tissue, and if the fibers are irregularly placed, then it is a dense irregular tissue. So this is a dense regular connective tissue in the tendon, and this is dense irregular connective tissue from the dermis portion. So here the fibers are arranged in an irregular fashion, while here they are arranged in a regular pattern. The dense connective tissue is found at joints between the skull bones and make themselves immovable, and they are also found forming muscle sheet called muscle fascia, which extends beyond the muscle forming a tendon, forming ligaments that attach bone to bone. Here let me mention that sprain is caused by excessive pulling of ligaments. Dense connective tissue are also found as an outer covering for bone, which is called periosteum, and as an outer protective covering of some organs like kidneys, lymph nodes, and the brain. Let us see the difference between tendon and ligament. So tendon attaches skeletal muscle to bones, while ligaments connect two bones and hold them in position. Tendons are inextensible, made of collagen fibers, while these can be pulled or stretched, and they are made mostly of elastic fibers. The fibroblasts are present in continuous rows, while the fibroblasts are scattered in ligament. Tendons are tough and inelastic, while ligaments are strong but they are elastic. Let us now discuss the elastic connective tissue. The elastic connective tissue is composed of elastic fibers, which are also called yellow fibers, and these fibers have considerable extension and recoil capacity. Few fibroblasts are present, and the matrix contains mass of yellow fibers which are secreted by the fibroblasts. These are components of organs where alternation of shape is very important. For example, in lung tissue, walls of elastic arteries, trachea, bronchial tubes, thyroid ligaments, skin, urinary bladder, etc. The function of elastic connective tissue is to enable the organs and their parts to stretch and contract. Let us now discuss the last type of adult connective tissue proper, that is reticular connective tissue. So reticular connective tissue is a type of tissue containing a network of fibers which are mainly reticular fibers. The fibroblasts called reticular cells which make up the reticular fibers, and although there are more than 20 different types of these fibers, the main fiber component is type 3 collagen, which is 100 to 150 nanometer in diameter. The reticular connective tissue forms scaffolding for other cells in several organs like lymph nodes, bone marrow, stroma of liver and spleen, kidney, and also under the skin. So, the function of reticular connective tissue is to provide support to organs, tissues, adipose tissues, and also muscles. Now let us see the second type of adult connective tissue, that is skeletal tissue, which is made of cartilage and bone. So it is a supporting tissue which is mineralized and hardened and helps the body to maintain the posture while also protecting the internal organs. So cartilage and bone are the main composition of this tissue. We will not discuss the details of this tissue, and this will be dealt in a separate presentation. The vascular tissues are made up of blood and lymph, and these are special types of fluid connective tissue that circulate through the cardiovascular system. The cells in this tissue circulate in a liquid extracellular matrix, and the blood is composed of liquid plasma and the formed elements or cells, which are mainly the erythrocytes, leukocytes and platelets. The erythrocytes or the red blood cells are the most abundant in blood and help in the transport of oxygen and carbon dioxide by forming complex with hemoglobin. The leukocytes or the white blood cells help in the immune responses of the body, while the platelets or thrombocytes help in blood clotting. The second type of fluid connective tissue, lymph, contains white blood cells in a liquid matrix, and permeable lymphatic capillaries allow large molecules and excess fluid from the interstitial spaces to enter the lymphatic vessels, and the lymph drains into the blood vessels, bringing different molecules to the blood. Specialized lymphatic capillaries transport absorbed fats away from the intestine and deliver these molecules to the blood. So we will not discuss more details about the vascular tissues, and this also will be dealt in a separate presentation. Let us now wind up our discussion with functions of connective tissues. So functions of connective tissues are quite diverse and depend on the type of cell and fiber. The loose and dense irregular connective tissue, composed of mainly fibroblasts and collagen fibers, help in the transport of oxygen, carbon dioxide, nutrients and waste products, and also help the organs to resist the stretching and tearing forces. The dense regular connective tissue forms organized structures like the tendon and ligament that are part of the structural framework of the body. The dense regular connective tissue also forms the aponeurosis, which is a component of the cornea of the eye. The elastic fibers which are present in the elastic connective tissue are made of fibrillin and elastin, and these are found in large vessels, walls of large vessels, in certain ligaments like the ligamenta flava, and this ligamenta flava connects different vertebrae, and it also helps in providing the resistance to stretch forces. The reticular fibers present in the reticular connective tissue, which are made up of reticular cells, make up the structural part of the hematopoietic and lymphatic tissues. And the different cells present in the connective tissue, for example macrophages, plasma cells and mast cells, perform very important inflammatory and immune functions when they encounter with antigens. So to summarize, the diverse functions of connective tissues are joining together other tissues of the body in the form of tendons and ligaments, support, for example trachea and bones, protect underlying organs, for example in the skull, transport in the form of blood, nutritive functions performed by blood, immune functions performed by different types of cells like lymphocytes and white blood cells present in the connective tissue, and also storage sites and insulation. So thank you very much for your attention. Hope this video is beneficial for you. If you have any doubts and queries, kindly get back to me in my email address. Thank you very much for your attention.